Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all be happy. May no one suffer from any disease. May all see goodness everywhere. May there be no misery anywhere. By God's grace, let there be peace everywhere. Good morning, friends. The subject of my talk this morning is experiencing God through action. And the word action has its counterpart in Sanskrit, which is karma. And all the scriptures of Hinduism are written in Sanskrit or archaic Sanskrit, called Vedic Sanskrit. And so there, the word blasphemy is not there. Any sincere question can be asked and the answer will also be given. That's what Hinduism is, which is called Vedanta also. We call that Vedanta in this country. Vedanta means the end of all knowledge. The end of all knowledge is what? That everything is divine. Sarvam Khalidam Brahma. Everything is divinity. That is the end of all knowledge. That is the highest truth in the Hindu scriptures. And experiencing God through action. Action in Sanskrit is called karma. And this question has been asked, what is karma? Indriyanam vyaparaha karma. Anything that is done with the sense organs and the internal organ, that is called karma, action. And there are 11 sense organs. Counting mind as the internal organ. And what are they? Chakshu, Karna, Nasika, Jiva, Tvak. The organ of sight, the organ of hearing, the organ of smell, the organ of taste, and the organ of touch. These are the 5 sense organs. And there are 5 motor organs. Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha. The organ of speech. The organ with the help of which we grab things, that means our hands. The organ which helps us to move from one place to another. That organ means our feet. And the organ which helps us to get rid of the digested food that we have eaten. That means the anus. And that organ which helps us to urinate or to create progeny. That is the reproductive organ, sexual organ. So these are 10. And the 11th one is the internal organ, which is mind. anything done by any of these organs will be considered action or karma. The speciality of action is that it will always produce some effect. When I was a young boy, I read every action has equal and opposite reaction. In preliminary science books, it was there. So there cannot be any action which will not produce any fruits, effects. And not all actions are the same. Some actions are considered bad actions and some considered good actions. What is bad action? Bad action is selfish action. And what is good action? Good action is unselfish action. And all these actions have their fruits, that means their effects on the individuals who perform that action. One should be very careful about what action one performs, because there are always effects of action, and there are three types of action or karma: kriyamana karma, sanchita karma, and prarabdha karma. That is the action which is being performed now, that is kriyamana karma. And the results, not all the results will come back to the doer. Sometimes they come later. Such as a person who puts money in a bank and he gets that dividend after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. That is like sanchita karma, accumulated action. And then when that money matures, then money comes with dividend. That is called prarabdha karma. And Hinduism believes in reincarnation. Sometimes a person has done many things in this life. The results are not all available in this life. Some of them remain accumulated. And so that is called accumulated karma or sanchita karma. But that will cause the rebirth of that person in a situation where he will have to work out the effects of his past karma. And only divine incarnations don't suffer from these things. So one has to be very careful about what one does. And there are some people who are born in a very unpleasant situation, and they start suffering from that very birth, while others, they are born in good environment and good families. They don't have that kind of suffering. Why this difference? This difference is because of the effects of their past action. And this, those who believe in reincarnation, they know that sometimes a person is born blind or crippled and all. It is due to the effect of his or her past action in previous incarnation. In the life of Jesus, we see such instance. At that time Jesus had just a handful of followers, and some of them brought a person who was born blind and deaf. And so they asked Jesus, why is this person born blind and deaf? Because at that time Judaism used to believe in reincarnation. Is it his own, due to his own fault or due to the fault of his parents? Then Jesus did not say anything. He only touched the eyes of that blind man, and that man gained eyesight. Then he said his blindness was there to glorify God. Then Jesus made that person free from blindness, and he didn't think that he had done it. He was just the instrument of God. It is God who had done it. That's why he said to glorify God. It is God's power which has made the blind man free from blindness. But how to get rid of this effect of the karma? It looks like it goes on hounding the doer of such actions. Life after life. No, there is a way out. What is that? The scriptures of Vedanta or Hinduism teach us that if the activities are performed selflessly or as a service to God, then the effect of such action will not be like that. That will help the person eventually to become free from the suffering of this world. He will not be born again. So all activities should be done as service to God. That is the advice given in the scriptures of Vedanta or Hinduism. And if all the activities are performed as service to God, then the results of such action will not come back to the doer. Sometimes some people come and say to me, oh, I am working and these are the problems associated with my work. My colleagues don't like me for this or that, and so on. Then I say to them, you think that you are serving the Lord. You are not working for your own benefit. You are serving the Lord. You are God's child, and all other people are also God's children. So when you work, you should remember that. And whatever you do, you will think that you are doing that for the pleasure of God. And that's what is taught by our scriptures. And who controls all this, all the effects of action of people? It is God. And the effects of action in Sanskrit are called karma phala, the fruits of action. So God is like the cashier in a bank, and all the good or bad actions are kept there. And when they become, when they mature, then that money which was put in bank will come back to the doer or to the investor with this interest or whatever. So God is like the cashier. That is one view. So God is impartial, like the bank, like the cashier of a bank. Whatever a person does, that with his action will come back to the doer. Then one may ask this question, then is there no scope for God's grace? If we pray to God, then will not God be gracious enough to make us free from the bad effects of our action? The answer is yes. God's grace is impartial. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say, God's grace is like the sea breeze which is making a boat, sailed boat, move. The wind hits the sail, and as a result of which the boat starts moving. So a person who is rowing his boat, if his boat has a sail, then he can stop rowing the boat, but he has to unfurl the sail of his boat. Then the wind will start moving the boat. That wind is God's grace. So you have to depend on God for everything that we do. And once that is done, the day will come when we will experience God. And this due to unselfish action, all the effects of selfish action will not be there. Everything is being done by God. That idea will come. And eventually one will experience God. All our actions are performed by us. And when we think that we are doing that, then our ego is making us think that we are doing. And if we are unselfish, then our ego is not involved. All selfishness comes from our ego. So gradually the ego will die. And when that our idea of our individual existence is our conscious thought, due to a conscious thought in our mind, which is the ego. So we will be able to go beyond our ego if we start doing works unselfishly. Then it's for God. To serve God is unselfish activity. So that kind of action which is performed without selfishness will eventually help us experience divinity. Then we will go beyond our ego. And what is beyond ego is divinity. And I have said this many times in the past. And I will say this again. That is, the owner and the object owned cannot be the same. See, if I own my physical body, I am not my physical body. If I own my sense organs and motor organs, then I am not my sense organs or motor organs as the owner. And if I own a mind, then is that ego is there. And this sense of my individual existence is a thought of my conscious mind. And that thought is I or ego. So if we have the ego, then we are the owners of our minds. I am the owner of my mind. And yet, I cannot separate myself as the owner from my mind, because that ego is there. But if I can become egoless, then I am free. And then when I go beyond my ego, selfishness, then I arrive at divinity. Our individual ego is like a wave in the ocean of infinity, divinity. So if we don't identify with our form, then we know that we are divinity. That's how, through action, we can experience divinity. Through selfless action, we can experience divinity. The subject of my talk was how experiencing God through action. What kind of action? Selfless action. So this is a great teaching that we have in Hinduism or Vedanta. I hope I have been able to make you understand how one can experience divinity through action. That action has to be selfless action. Thank you all.